Gravity Cast.
On this week's episode, I wanted to finalize Raul Magwan's character and get him in the game. So last week we left off with the gold inlays on the swords, which I wasn't a really big fan of and some of you weren't either, so we tried a couple different colors to see what worked. Biku suggested that we try blue, and Patrick suggested that we use emerald with gold inlays. I decided to use both colors and work that into the character's story. So here I started to do the gold inlays, which turned out pretty cool, and Red Fox agreed. So I kept filling out some of the color details for the rest of the character, for the armbands, and went back to filling in some of the other gold inlay details on the swords. So here I jump back onto coloring the medallion, which is one of the main character features for Raul Magwan. So we wanted to try to incorporate some of those color schemes into this as well. So I started off with the red, green, and blue to tie it all together, but it looked kind of strange. And we'd already decided that he was going to use a lot of gold inlay, so having an all silver medallion with color didn't really fit the rest of the character. So we talked through some options and figured out how to work gold into the design, but I felt like you couldn't see enough of the green and blue from far away, so we tried a different direction. To make the green and blue stand out more on the design, I decided to use it as the background color of the medallion instead of just on the beetle. This would also let me work a lot more gold into this design as well. So I had to pick a trim color for the necklace and the sword handles, and Ashley thought that we should stick with white. So I filled the background and started coloring those in. To make the swords and the medallion look more like metal, I started to add some highlights. I also talked about some general lighting principles that I use and started to use the same technique on the beetle medallion. I went back and added a second layer of highlights on the painted inlays, just to add a little more depth. The last thing I needed to do was add a rim light to the character. Doing this will help the character's art stand out from the background layer by adding some contrast and definition on the shaded side of the character. I went back in and filled a couple highlights that I missed. Then I cycled the background color to make sure I didn't miss filling in any color spots. I saved the artwork out and loaded it onto his card for the board game. So the only thing that was left was to upload the artwork into Tabletopia, which is the online board game simulator that I use for testing. So all I had to do was grab Raul's card and throw him on the table, and there he is. Now, if you've been following along on social media, you may have seen some of these other characters like Braxos the Invincible or Lulu the Huntress, and I went through a similar process to develop these characters as well. After I got the character on the game card, I realized that his swords were being covered up by some of the icons. So afterwards, I did end up flipping him on the card. Well, with Raul Magwan's character finished, we're going to jump back on the Abyss next week. So join me live every Wednesday night at 8 to use your influence to help build these worlds and characters. Thanks for stopping by.